We have some breaking news to get to here on Philadelphia Eagles now, as Dallas Goedert going to be out for the next couple of weeks with a shoulder injury. We'll dive into that, but first, today's show presented by LinkedIn Talent Solutions. Build your business like Howie Roseman has constructed the Eagles 2022 roster, and post your job for free at linkedin.com/NFL Daily. We'll tell you more about them coming up here in just a few moments. So the breaking news here early on a Tuesday, Dallas Goedert, according to Mike Garofolo of NFL Network, going to miss multiple weeks with a shoulder injury. That shoulder injury did happen on the play, the non-face mask call in which he got hit. He fumbled, and of course that was one of the many mistakes that the Philadelphia Eagles made on Monday Night Football, which is why they suffered their first loss of the 2022 season. So Goedert being out for, quote, an extended period of time is obviously a big blow to this Eagles offense. You have to imagine that he's going to go on IR. Corresponding roster moves probably will happen. I'm not sure if the Eagles are going to look at the free agency market to bring in another tight end. They do have some quality ones on this roster that we'll talk about to see how they can fill the void of Goedert being out. That injury, as I said, happened on the face mask non-call, and I'm not going to sit here and say that officiating cost the Eagles the game. We'll talk about my reaction to the Eagles losing to Washington. Of course, it had a factor in why the Eagles fell. They just made far too many mistakes, and now injuries starting to pile up for Philadelphia. The roommates, Dallas Goedert, now out for an extended period of time, and prior to the game, Avonte Maddox was placed on IR with that hamstring injury. And this is a huge blow for Philadelphia for a couple of reasons. Dallas Goedert having a Pro Bowl level season. He gives you elite blocking and catching ability. And he's been one of the best tight ends in the National Football League. His rankings among all tight ends in the NFL, elite. Receptions, second behind Travis Kelce. Yards, second behind Travis Kelce. And that's really impressive considering his targets all the way at 9. So he's been able to do a lot of damage with less targets as compared to other tight ends in the NFL in yards per catch first. He's a good catch and run type of tight end, elite blocker. He can catch balls all over the yard and picks up yards after the catch in a very physical manner and helps bail out quarterback Jalen Hurts oftentimes because the Eagles like to go to him in critical spots, throwing it to him behind the line of scrimmage and downfield. You look at his numbers this year, we already talked about where Goedert ranks among all tight ends in the league. He's having an awesome season, a career year, a year after signing that big contract extension, 53 targets. He's caught 43 of those 53 targets, which is awesome. 544 yards, average yards per catch, 12.7. So anytime he's targeted, anytime he's reeling in a dime from Jalen Hurts, he's picking up a first down and more. And there's really no other way to talk about this. The Eagles have a great roster. They can maybe survive without Dallas Goedert, but his usage, his meaning, his role in this offense, it is a huge blow to what the Philadelphia Eagles like to do on the offensive side of the football. When you think about the player that is Dallas Goedert, he can do it all. Great run blocker, great pass blocker. And from a route technician standpoint, he catches seam balls. He catches out routes. He catches balls behind the line of scrimmage for an easy bailout play from Jalen Hurts to throw him one of those quick bubble screens, let the blocker set up downfield, and he is a menace to bring down in the open field. I think he's been the most dynamic yards after the catch tight end in football this year and the last couple of years outside of Travis Kelce, because from a physical profile standpoint, they are both very similar players. And specifically in this Eagles offense, and this has kind of been the case going back to Andy Reid, tight ends serve as a security blanket in an offense that the Eagles like to run because he can bail you out in a plethora of ways downfield. You can go vertical to him, horizontal to Dallas Goedert, but also his meaning and his role and his impact as a blocker in this offense is what makes him the best all-around tight end in the NFL, and I think he has overtaken George Kittle in regards to being the best overall tight end in the NFL. So are you concerned about the Eagles, and are you concerned about this Dallas Goedert injury? Because I think there are reasons to be concerned considering how heavily they rely upon Dallas Goedert in this offense. I want you to type C for concerned, NW for not worried, and also spam 88 to show Dallas Goedert some love. Appreciate everybody for tuning into our watch party last night, by the way, on Monday Night Football. More than 30,000 people joined us all throughout the night. We were able to pick up about 300 new subscribers to up that total to 35,555. If you want to stay in the know with all things Eagles all year round with videos coming your way every day, make sure you subscribe and lock us in on Philadelphia Eagles Now. As for some Goedert replacements, let's look on the roster because I don't think the Eagles make any external moves here. Jack Stoll, he's actually done pretty solid as a pass catcher. They put him on the field a lot because Shane Steichen and Nick Sirianni like to run a lot of 2 tight end sets and 12 personnel packages. Grant Calcaterra has really good ability to pick up yards after the catch. We saw that in spurts throughout the preseason, and so far in the regular season, he's had minimal opportunities, but you certainly see the flashes there. And then last year in training camp, minimally during the regular season, Tyree Jackson, who played quarterback at Buffalo, a converted tight end who is a freak athlete, also has some ability as well. So those are going to be the Dallas Goedert replacements. And for Jackson, his practice window was activated back a couple of weeks ago, so he is set to rejoin this team in a little while. This has been the Eagles tight end depth chart up to this point, with Goedert now axed out of that tight end 1 spot. Jack Stoll will move up to tight end 1, I believe, but I think that Grant Calcaterra going to be utilized more in the pass game as compared to Stoll because, frankly, he is just the better pass catcher. Coming up next on the show, you don't want to miss what I'm going to break down because I'm fired up about this Eagles loss to Washington. We have some alarming statistical trends that we have to take a look at, and I'm going to spit the truth as to why the Philadelphia Eagles lost this game to this divisional foe and the fraudulent Washington Commanders. First, though, today's show is presented by LinkedIn Talent Solutions. You can post your job for free at linkedin.com/NFL Daily. And think about it. These days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. I mean, shoot, imagine giving millions of dollars to professional football players like what Howie Roseman in this front office has to do. You want to be 100% certain in free agency, in the draft, and building your business that you have access to the best qualified candidates available. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the right people for your team faster and for free. You can add your job in the purple hashtag hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile. That way you can spread the word because it stands out from a visual standpoint that you are hiring for prospective people looking for a job. Simple tools like screening questions make it easy to focus on candidates with just the right skills and experience so you can quickly prioritize who you'd like to interview and hire. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster, so post your job for free at linkedin.com/NFL Daily. That's linkedin.com/NFL Daily to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. So I just want to kind of rant about why the Eagles lost this football game. And I do want to pose a question for you before I talk about this and after to kind of gauge where the fan base is at here. Who do you think was to blame for the Eagles' loss last night? I think the only guy who really came to play, Jalen Hurts. Outside of that, a lot of different areas in which you can cast blame upon for why the Eagles suffered their first loss of the year. So there's really so much to talk about this defeat. So let's break down why the Philadelphia Eagles lost this football game. Entering Monday Night Football, the Eagles were plus 15 in turnover differential. Historic, by far number 1 in the NFL. And while their ball security has been coached and is coached, is a point of emphasis, and has been impressive up to this point, leading into Monday Night Football, at some point, and I continue to say this because the averages are going to play out at some point, the Eagles were due for that trend to reverse. And it did against Washington. Philly turned it over 3 times on the night, which matched their previous total over the first 8 games combined. And even though there were some questionable officiating calls, which no doubt cost the Eagles, I thought it was a soft way to end the game with that Brandon Graham roughing penalty because he tried to let up, he tried to tag Taylor Heineke, give the Eagles an opportunity to come back, and don't just throw the flag. And the fact that Taylor Heineke celebrated like he did, it cracked me up. By rule, that call on Brandon Graham was a penalty. But I kind of liken it to going 10 miles per hour over the speed limit. Just because I pass a cop going 10 miles per hour over the speed limit doesn't mean that he has to pull me over. You don't have to throw the flag there in a critical spot, which did result in the game being over. Outside of the officiating, though, what did the Eagles do? They played sloppy. They were penalized often. They turned the football over. They were awful on third downs. And once again, they couldn't stop the run, and that's a recipe for disaster. The Eagles defense surrendering 12 third down conversions to Taylor Heineke and the crew. And this is the first time they've allowed 140 or more rushing yards in 3 straight games since 2006, and the 8th time over the last 35 years. And coming up, you look at the Eagles' schedule here, folks, they will face several of the top 5 leading rushers in the NFL over the rest of the season, which is a concern to monitor. Coming up, guys like Jonathan Taylor next week, Saquon Barkley, Aaron Jones, Derrick Henry. On the injury front, obviously this is a huge blow to the Eagles as Dallas Goedert going to be out multiple weeks. And a lot of people want to say, look, this loss was good. The Eagles needed this defeat. They were feeling themselves. They didn't want it as much as Washington last night. And that's why the fan base should be very frustrated. They were complacent. They were lazy. They were lackluster. And because of that, they made mistakes against a hungry football team. They got dominated across both lines of scrimmage. They couldn't stop the Washington offense in critical spots. They got pushed around and out-physicaled by Washington. They didn't want it as much as the Commanders, who clearly were desperate, and the Eagles came in, we're 8-0. We're going to coast through the Washington Commanders, and we're going to move to 9-0 with the Colts coming up next week. When you have that type of mentality in the NFL, you're going to go down with an L, and that's what happened with Philadelphia. Is it good that they can evaluate some of their weaknesses? Yes. Look, we need to figure out this rush defense. That could be the backbreaker in the NFL playoffs to go down and get upset early in the big dance when you have an opportunity to get the number 1 seed and win the NFC East. The secondary on third downs, not good. The pass rush, not good enough. Robert Quinn, where have you been? Jonathan Gannon, can he get a little bit more aggressive with this Eagles offense? They're tested now, and there's tape on an opponent who has faced them for the second time to see what works. Now, if you play a clean slate of football and the Eagles don't turn it over 3 times, I think they're victorious, and they still had an opportunity, despite all of their mistakes, all throughout the night, to still come back if it wasn't for the officials kind of ending that game prematurely. All right, appreciate everybody for tuning in. Let me pose this question for you one more time. Who is to blame for the Eagles' loss? I know a lot of you are fired up, so get fired up in the comment section. Don't forget to subscribe and keep it locked right here for the realest Eagles talk here on YouTube.